Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining our June webinar. We're going to be starting in about 3 minutes. So, opportunity to make any final adjustments, grab a glass of water, have a little stretch, take a breath, whatever you need to do. We'll be starting very shortly. But just while we're waiting for everybody to drop in, this is an opportunity just to put into the chat, what's your name and where in the world are you from? We normally get a broad spread of people from all over the globe, so it'd be lovely to hear where you're from. I will get us started. Amazing. So far, we've got a spread from Texas in the west and Pakistan in the east. So we've got a good cross section of people. Amazing. We'll be starting in just a minute, giving opportunities for those that are still joining. And then we'll get into today's discussion. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is the weather and the seasons, the impact that has on our well-being. I am just curious, given the fact that we have people from all around the UK, in fact, all around the world. If you look out the window, what's the weather doing right now? And what is the impact that is having on you in terms of your mood? So, okay. Thank you, Ruth from sunny London. And what is sunny London doing for your mood? How is it making you feel? And if you're looking out the window and seeing something different, what impact does that have? So let's kind of explore that for a moment whilst we wait for everybody else to join. So how many of you feel more motivated or uplifted as the seasons change and potentially use better weather to recharge your well-being, particularly for those of you in the northern hemisphere when it's warmer? How do you feel that that has a positive impact on your mood, that it makes you feel happier, makes you feel more joyful? Okay. I've seen a couple of people responding to that, so amazing. How many of you feel that when the weather is not so great, when we experience those seasonal changes, it can have a negative impact? You can feel more drained or unsettled and struggle to find energy or balance during the darker, wetter, colder parts of the year. Yeah, okay. So a couple of you are acknowledging that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Um, And on the flip side, how many of you aren't quite sure how the seasons affect you, haven't really paid attention to any changes in your energy or well-being as we progress through the course of the year? Maybe for those of you that are close to the equator that don't experience such strong seasonal changes, you may find that it's not something that's even on your radar. But yeah, definitely a lot of people are saying that dark, cold weather can make you feel down, depressed, can feel a lot more challenging. And I know for many that is true. And I know for myself, there are times where I've struggled to kind of motivate myself during the winter months in the way that I'd be able to easily be able to bounce out of bed and, rush off to the gym first thing in the morning in the hot weather. That's kind of a little bit harder to do when the weather changes. And this is where we can't ignore the fact that what is happening outside our front doors and outside our windows will have an impact on your energy and on your mental health and well-being. And Julie, it's a really interesting comment. When the sun is shining, we feel better, no matter how cold it is outside. If it's -10 outside, but the sun is shining, the skies are blue, most people generally feel better. I've had some of my most incredible experiences up the top of a mountain where it's like
Yeah.
-20, but the weather is clear, the skies are blue, it's freezing cold, but kind of just having access to the sun can definitely clear the metaphorical clouds as well as obviously the physical clouds in the sky. So let's spend a bit of time exploring that. So just so you know, this session is being recorded. We will share the recording after the session is complete for those that either are not able to attend in person or not able to stay for the whole session. And also you can forward that link on to friends, colleagues, or anyone else you feel might benefit from this session. You will get an email with all of the information, all the resources that are contained in today's session, so you don't need to worry about having to write anything down. My colleague Lee, who's my co-pilot today, Lee, give us a wave. She'll be sharing any links or anything else that comes up in today's discussion into the chat, so it's nice and easy for you to be able to access all the information and resources that accompany today's session. So, firstly, who are we? How many of you are attending one of our webinars for the very first time? How many of you are newbies that have never been to one of our programs or sessions before? Okay, wonderful. Welcome, welcome to those of you that are here for the first time. We've been doing this every month for the last few years. These are always going to be free of charge. We can have anywhere between 100 and 1,000 people that turn up for these sessions. And we're really grateful that you've given up your most valuable resource, your time, to be here today. Myself and my colleagues are firmly committed to ensuring you get as much value from today's discussion as possible. But we need your help with that. We are not here just to talk at you, to go through PowerPoint slides. We're here to create an opportunity for us to have a discussion, regardless of how many people end up on today's session. So I'm going to encourage you to get involved. Who are we? What qualifies us to be here? So the Stress Management Society is our non-profit arm through which we've been running campaigns such as Stress Awareness Month for the last, more than 2 decades now, as a way of raising awareness and creating opportunities and platforms for people to be able to discuss the things that we don't always get the time or the opportunity to do so. And particularly around mental health, it's one of the 3 most uncomfortable conversations for many people to have. Coupled with sex and money, mental health is one of the things that we're least likely to open up and talk about. So we've always worked hard to create spaces and platforms for people to be able to do so. And that's really what today's about. Now, obviously, today's conversation, today's topic is a little bit lighter than some we've covered in the past, but it's also an important one, particularly for those of you in Britain. Obviously, being based in the UK ourselves, we do get a lot of people that come to our sessions that are based in the UK. And if we didn't talk about the weather in the UK, I'm not sure how we would start any conversation. How many of you would agree that it's a very common daily topic of conversation? It's a very easy, comfortable place to start. And particularly if you live in Britain, we're always complaining about the weather. It's too cold, it's too wet, it's too icy, it's too windy, it's too hot, it's too humid. At the moment, everyone's complaining it's too hot. We're never happy with the weather. No matter what's going on, it's just never quite as we want it, right? So it's a very, very interesting discussion. Michelle, you kind of talking about the weather in Glasgow. We're planning, myself and my partner are planning to go to Scotland in the very near future, in the next couple of weeks. And that's one of the things that's kind of unsettled me a little bit, is we just don't know what to expect even in July. But as I said, like we're not here to tell you what's right, what's wrong, what to do and what not to do, but just to be able to have an open discussion and to explore how certain topics impact our mental health and well-being. As I've mentioned, that we are a non-profit, we're only able to do these kind of programs due to the kind support and generosity of the people that make donations. If you are able to, in any way, shape, or form, continue to support us and all our non-commercial work, which allows us to reach more people, every little donation is very, very gratefully received, and it allows us to continue doing this work. So there's a QR link on the screen. If you take a picture of that, if you're able to support us, your support absolutely means the world and allows us to continue doing what we do. Okay, so this session is not a lecture, it's not a webinar, it's a workshop. And particularly for me as a Londoner, one of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years is the world is becoming an increasingly lonely and isolated place. I know this firsthand as a Londoner, because last year we won the award for being the loneliest city on the planet. I kid you not. I encourage you to look that up for yourselves. That in a city of 9 million people, one of the most populous places in Europe is also the loneliest place on the planet. And part of this is we're getting less and less opportunities for meaningful interaction. We don't congregate in the kind of places we used to, whether that places of religious worship or churches or other places where humans would come together. And now it's kind of become very much virtual gatherings. And in those virtual gatherings, most people are happy and comfortable to turn up with their cameras off and put themselves on mute. So essentially, you're talking to initials on a screen, if at all. I would like us to create an opportunity as close as possible to us being in a room together. So I encourage you to put your cameras on so we know we're talking to real human beings. This is an interactive session. There will be opportunities for you to get involved, to jump on the mic, to share your thoughts, ask questions, to disagree, to clarify, to tell me to slow down. Whatever you need, we are here to support you. So there will be lots of opportunities to participate. If I ask a question, it's an actual question, not a rhetorical one. So yeah, please do get involved. And as I said, if you can, please put your cameras on so we know we're talking to real human beings and you can see each other. And also that feels a little bit more safe when you're talking to humans rather than blank screens. Just a couple of ground rules to ensure we have a safe space. Psychological safety is crucial for us in our programs. These are the same ground rules we cover in all of our sessions. And that's, we have a short amount of time to cover a big subject, so make the most of this time. Be present, be here. This is not the kind of thing that it's a watch party. You can put it on the background whilst you're eating your lunch. I'm going to encourage you to get involved. If you can, limit other distractions. Only another 50 minutes to go. Do your 50%. What you put in over the next hour is going to determine what you take out. Be open, honest, respectful. If someone shares something you don't agree with, that's okay. Allow them to have their opinion as you have yours. Have an open mind. Use I statements when making these statements. In my opinion, I think that rather than speaking on behalf of others. And also, we're going to ask for this to be a safe space. So Vegas rules. If anyone shares anything of a confidential or sensitive nature, that does not get shared outside of this space. There's something particularly sensitive that is shared in the discussions, we will edit that out before sharing the recording. The only caveat to confidentiality is if anything comes up that impacts your safety or the safety of others, that's the only time that confidentiality has to be broken. But also anything that we have offered, any stories, case studies, analogies, frameworks that we share in this session, myself, my colleague Lee, and also my colleague Ruth is here as well. You have our full permission to share that with anybody that's willing to listen. If anyone has anything that you'd like to change, add, remove from that list of ground rules, then obviously feel free to drop that into the chat. As I said, my colleagues are here monitoring the chat. I'm going to stay focused on this discussion. So Lee will be bringing any of the comments or questions you bring into the chat into the main discussion. So there is a handbook that accompanies today's session. My colleague Lee will put the link into the chat so you can download that. All you need to do is click the link on the screen and that will download the handbook into your browser, and obviously you can then follow through with all of the additional information and material that's within that. So for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, It is summer. For me right now, looking outside the window, it's a beautiful day. It's 27 degrees. What are some of the ways that we can use summer weather or nice weather, as we would deem it to improve our well-being? How can we ensure that this becomes a time where we can take easy action to promote and improve our well-being?
Make the most of getting out into nature.
Okay, great. So, Sally, give me some examples of how you could practically do that. You know, what's a step that you could take to get out to nature to incorporate that into your daily routine?
Well, I go out every day. I've just been for a walk. I know it's just to the shop, but I've been for a walk just before I came on this webinar. I take my dog out every night down some
Uh-huh.
fields. But I do that in the middle of winter as well, and it's not so great. But it's still out there. It still blows the cobwebs away of the day.
Absolutely. And it's a really interesting point that there's some studies that have suggested dog owners live longer than non-dog owners. Why? Well, you don't have a choice. If you don't take your dog for a walk every day, you're going to have a mess on the kitchen floor that you're going to need to clean up. So it's actually easier and better all around to take the dog out for a walk. And whether it's bucketing with rain, it's -5, or the ground is covered in deep snow, you've still got to get out. My dog actually passed away a couple of years ago, and for the first couple of months, I maintained the daily walk. I was still walking him energetically, even though he wasn't with me anymore. And after a while, life got in the way, the weather or whatever. There was reasons that I would find not to engage in my daily walk. I still do my best to get out every day, but not quite as religiously as I would previously, where it was every morning, every lunchtime, and every evening, 3 times a day, I'd be out for a walk. So absolutely. Now, this is one of the things that I often suggest to people. If you can't actually physically have a dog, maybe get a pretend dog. Have an imaginary dog. Give it a name. Get a picture of it. Download it off the internet. Maybe your dog's called George and he's a golden retriever and you've got a picture of him on your desk. Then every day you've got to take George out for a walk, because otherwise you're going to have a metaphorical mess to clean up in the kitchen. So, yeah, absolutely. That's a great example. Alicia, welcome, one of our mental health champions in training. You mentioned walking barefoot. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that and what benefit does that bring for you?
So I can tell what it makes to what it does to me. Yes, definitely helps me to feel a little bit more grounded if
Sure.
I take my shoes off and walk on grass. And also for me, it happens when I have a headache and I take my shoes off and walk on the grass. The headaches usually goes away. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. So
with my mental and physical well-being.
and is that something that you do every day? And where could you do that?
Not every day. You could do that in the garden. Not well, I don't do it every day, but you could do that in your garden. But I've done it in the park as well when I went for a walk by myself, and yeah, people looked, but so what? Yeah.
Of course. Thank you, Alicia. And these are all wonderful examples. Alicia and Sally's examples are fantastic ideas that you can get started in the summer, because it's a lot easier to be able to start these kind of habits and behaviors when the weather is nice. Amanda, you had your hand up. What would you like to share? That's Amanda Preedy. Okay, no worries. Who else do we have in the chat? So my chat function has disappeared.
I'd like to share one now. Anna Maria has suggested if you have a good camera phone, she loves to take pictures of nature, particularly in the summer, and then featuring the best ones on a virtual photo frame. So when she's stuck inside on rainy days, she gets a lovely slideshow of beautiful British nature. And I really like that
Amazing.
idea.
I love that. Is there anything else in the chat? Any other comments in the chat that we can share that are different to what's been shared already?
I'm going to jump in and share something that seems to be coming up for people who are dog walkers or who are not. They're saying they actually socialize a lot more because you're taking the dogs out, you're getting to know other dog walkers. And someone even commented that they don't have a dog, but yet they know the names of the dogs locally in the park. So getting outside, you're meeting more people, which, you know, when we're making that connection, improving our well-being. So not just getting outside in nature, but meeting people, being connected, having conversations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ruth. And coming back to this idea of getting the positive habits started in the summer, because it's a lot easier to keep going when you have momentum. There's something that, you know, over the last few years that I've been doing my best to maintain as a daily practice. And in my garden, I've installed an ice bath, and it's got a chiller and it keeps the water really cold. And it's great. Whenever I do it, I feel amazing. And, you know, normally I'll kind of keep going, and it gets to about October and it's really cold. And then, you know, I miss a day or two, and before you know it, you're falling out of the habit. And it's really hard to motivate yourself to get into a tub of iced water when it's really cold outside. Started again basically this week. When you get out of the ice tub and it's 27 degrees, it's not quite so challenging and uncomfortable. And if I could keep that going throughout the summer, hopefully that momentum will carry me into the winter, particularly as I've got a trip to Norway to the Arctic Circle with Wim Hof in November, where I'm supposed to be swimming in an ice lake. So actually, it's an opportunity for me to start setting positive behaviors. Does that make sense? If you don't currently walk or do barefoot exercise or spend enough time in nature, this is the perfect time to set new habits, because it takes 21 to 28 days to create new habits and new behavioral patterns. It's a lot easier to do that when the ambient atmospheric factors are supporting you to do so. Does that make sense? So this is an opportunity to create new habits and new behaviors. So these are some great suggestions. And hopefully I've pronounced this correctly. Is it Elia or Alea? You said you don't have anything, no park, no nice garden, and you don't like the heat. So I guess obviously you've shared with us what you don't have. Do you live in an area where there's any kind of outdoor space, or anywhere that you could access? Because ultimately, as I said, like, you know, one of the things, and again, I don't know where in the world you are, but you know, most places there will be a local kind of city park or some kind of greenery, but somewhere where you can get out. And particularly if you don't like the heat, if there's any kind of forested areas or places where there are trees, where there's shade, that could be particularly beneficial. And yeah, you know, one of the things that Michelle suggested is an act of mindfulness, even just looking out at the sky, just being present to what is. The vast majority of the stress that we experience happens in the past or the future, because we're stressing about things that haven't happened yet, or things that have already happened that we're ruminating about. And actually, this is the time here where you have an opportunity just to be present to the wind rustling through the leaves, the sensation of the sun on your skin, you know, the gentle breezes and all the other sensations, the birds tweeting, children playing. There are so many things that are happening in the reality of this moment that allow us to bring ourselves back to the most important point in all time, which is the present. The only thing that is real is what is happening right now. And as I said, we've got a great opportunity to focus on that. So let's kind of look at, well, how can we build on this? The fact that, you know, we've been given an opportunity. Let's just kind of think about how the weather helps our well-being. Firstly, your mood is boosted through serotonin production. We tend to produce more serotonin in the summer, and we are more likely to spend time outdoors in the summer, even if that's just to be sat in the garden. Throughout most of the summer period, probably from, you know, end of April through to October, I would say the vast majority, 90% plus of my evening dinners with my lovely partner are in the garden. We get to be in our little pocket of nature in London. We get to be outdoors with fresh air and sunshine. Obviously during the winter months, we're having our meals indoors rather than outdoors. We're more likely to spend longer time walking slowly outdoors rather than I'm just trying to get out to get my steps done. In addition to that, we tend to sleep better and it regulates our emotions better. Obviously, there are some caveats. When it's extremely hot, it might impact your ability to sleep easily when we're hot and sweaty. So this is where, having a fan, or if you're lucky enough to have air conditioning, can be quite useful. Again, depending on where you are in the world, even like, for example, in the UK, when it gets hot during the day, thankfully, it's still relatively cool in the evenings. But generally speaking, people tend to sleep better in the summer. We're more encouraged to find opportunities to go outdoors. Yeah, at lunchtime, myself and my colleagues in the office are more likely to get out and go for a walk at lunchtime because you want to get out and enjoy the day and enjoy the weather, and also have more mindful breaks. And also, particularly for those of you that find that your mood is seriously impacted by gloomy, wet, or cold weather, you may be experiencing seasonal affective disorder, and ultimately better weather will alleviate those symptoms. So, just going back to that, from your perspective, what have you observed about how weather has helped your well-being? What do you notice that's different? What do you enjoy? What benefit do you get when the weather is better? How do you feel differently?
I would just say it's easier to get out. When the weather's better, it's easier to get outdoors. I mean, I'm a dog owner, and so have to go out no matter what the weather is. As I said earlier in the chat, if the sun's shining, I'm happy. It doesn't matter if it's cold. It doesn't have to be hot. As the sun's shining, I'm happy. I live in Manchester, so we're renowned across the world for being a very rainy city. I suppose you just kind of get used to it. But when the weather's good, it's easier to get out and enjoy the outdoors, isn't it? But I do try and do it when it's not so good as well.
Now, absolutely. And I think one of the things that I used to love most about taking my dog out in the summer, when we got home, within 2 minutes of getting into the house, we were able to enjoy the rest of our afternoon or rest of our morning. When it's wet, windy, and miserable outside, and he was a long-haired white German Shepherd, it could take me half an hour, 45 minutes to dry him off and get the mud off his paws and the rest of it. And it was actually a huge effort to walk my dog, even though we had one of those onesies for him and all kinds of different things to do our best to kind of keep him dry and not muddy. There is more effort required, and even for ourselves, you've got to put more layers on and the rest of it. Whereas in the summer, you could just basically walk out in shorts and a t-shirt with your flip-flops on and not have to worry about preparing for whatever's going on outside of our doors. Who else do we have? Some bizarre reason I can't see the names, but your hand is up as number one. It's Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Neil. I would like to remind you that you had a webinar within the last few months where you had to evacuate your building and rather take a very sad, scary situation at hand. You and your team decided to take a field trip and go and walk outdoors. I believe there are a few YouTube or TikTok videos in regards to the taking the negative and spinning it into a positive. At any given time, regardless of what the weather is like, if you have the chance to just go and be present outside and breathe in the air and listen to the sounds, it will immediately drain you of the current stress that you are in. I highly encourage those that can do. One of the comments was, what if it's raining? Can you still have a fire drill or something of those sorts? Absolutely. Throw on your raincoat, grab your umbrella, and just go and listen to the rain hitting your umbrella. Listen to the birds playing in the water. Listen to kids splashing in the water. Just simple things can immediately drain you of what your worries are if you just give it up and listen to nature.
Absolutely. And thank you, Heather. I remember that you kind of kindly stepped in to kind of help us to navigate this. So just for those of you that aren't aware of what happened, we had a bit of an emergency. We had a bomb scare in the middle of one of our previous webinars. It wasn't that long ago, a couple of months ago. And we had the police here. We had to evacuate immediately. And there was nothing we could do. So we kind of got to the point we managed to get a hold of our colleague Raquel, who is based in Mexico, to run the rest of the session. And because there was nothing else we could do, so we're just going to go for a walk. And we happened to be in an area in northwest London where we're surrounded by canals and lakes and countryside. And we just went for a walk because that's something we had within our power. It's something we had control over. And this is, as I said, as Heather is suggesting, we do have control over this. But I also want us to take on board that there are barriers or perceived barriers that we sometimes put in the way of taking action. So let's explore that for a second, because this all sounds wonderful. Why would we not do this? Why would we not get out and be barefoot on the earth and go for a walk and enjoy the weather and listen to the birds tweeting and watch the sky? Why do we not do this as much as we would like to, or that would bring us benefit? What are the barriers that prevent us from using this beautiful time of year to make the most of the weather to improve our well-being? So, yeah, go for it, Alicia.
Maybe physical health, like, and like difficulties with mobility. So that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be difficulties with mobility. And how do you think we could overcome that, Alicia? Because it's a fair point. Not everybody's got the same levels of mobility and movement. But what could we do? Because it's easy for us to look at what we can't do. What could we do? Do you have any suggestions around
that? If you've got network of support, hopefully asking other people for support with this. So being maybe more comfortable at asking people for support as well.
Absolutely. And in addition to that, rather than focusing on what you can't do, is what can you do? It's very interesting that the last time we had the Olympics in London is 2012, and I was fortunate enough to be involved with the opening ceremony of that. But for me, the most inspiring part of that wasn't actually the Olympics itself, it was the Paralympics. And for those in the UK, remember that Channel 4 ran a whole campaign. The Paralympics was on Channel 4 here in the UK, and it was "Here Come the Superheroes," because these were people that had, what we would describe as disabilities. They were less physically able than the full-bodied or full-abilitied athletes, should I say. But they were achieving incredible things. I think it was Johnny Peacock ran the 100-meter sprint, and he only has one leg and a blade on the other, like a fraction of a second slower than an able-bodied sprinter. That is incredible. I've had the opportunity to meet veterans, both UK and US veterans, that were taken to the North Pole and climb Mount Everest. And one of the pre-qualifying criteria is that you had to have lost at least 2 limbs. These were not people that were saying to themselves, what can I not do? But asking themselves, what can I do and how can I do it? Does that make sense? So this, for me, is where there's a reframe. There is always an opportunity. And I'm not saying this in any way to diminish anyone's challenges, but how can we find a way to navigate our challenges? Because your challenges should not necessarily be limiting you being able to have a full experience of life. We just may need to find innovative or creative ways to navigate those challenges. That's something definitely to consider. Many of you have mentioned time is a huge factor. Now, someone said to me once upon a time, whether you're Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, JFK, Jesus, Buddha, or Krishna, you've all got 24 hours in a day. It's not the amount of time you have, it's how you use that time. And I appreciate that for many of us, it feels like time is speeding up, right? Some of you are shocked that it's already almost July. I'm shocked it's 2025. It's like, how did that happen? that went around pretty quick. The point is, because of the ways that we live our lives, the always on social media, smartphone culture, there is a lot more demand on us, a lot more information that we're being exposed to. And that's actually what we're going to be focusing on next month. It's a syndrome that's described as mean world syndrome, because we've got so much information, we're so overloaded. Most people are thinking, the world's a horrible, bad, crazy place filled with death, disease, devastation, and destruction. That's not true. Actually, there's probably more examples of amazing, wonderful, beautiful things that happen every day. We just don't hear about them. So one of the barriers for time is not that we don't have enough of it, but much of it is spent in things that are not necessarily giving us value or uplifting our daily experience. Does that make sense? Because it's interesting, having worked directly with people that said, I don't have enough time. And then you start looking at, well, how much time did you find to go on Instagram, on YouTube or TikTok? How much time did you spend in your WhatsApp group messages? And people that have the data to be able to track this are shocked at like how much time they have spent in certain areas, which could have been spent on things that are actually uplifting you. And I could tell you from a first-hand experience, I've put an app on my smartphone that limits my social media use to 20 minutes a day. Been on it for about 3 weeks now, and I can tell you I feel a hell of a lot better. And if there's information that needs to find its way to me, because I don't read the papers, I don't watch the news, someone will tell me when there was an Air India crash, or when there was the riots in LA or in Northern Ireland, that information found its way to me because people I know were sharing that or were directly impacted by it, if that makes sense. So it's not like I'm ignorant, but I am choosing to curate the information that's being invited into my life, which has then given me more capacity. Over the last couple of weeks, I've actually spent more time sat in the garden. I've spent more time doing things that actually uplift me. So this thing of time is a really interesting one, because it's not the lack of time. I challenge anyone that says they don't have enough time. It's how you're choosing to use that time. And if you are, some of you may say, well, I have to work 16 hours a day. Again, I appreciate that. But is that required, or is that a choice? And I appreciate some of you may be in a position where you don't have that option. I will share the name of the app. I'll look it up, and I think it's called Screen Zen. Yeah, it's a free app. You just choose the top apps that you're spending time on, or look them for you. So I basically got rid of, well, the only two that I used to use is YouTube and Instagram. And every time I go onto it, it will ask me, do you really want to use this app? And I've got to take a breath. And then it asks me to wait for 10 seconds, by which point the impulsive reaction has dissipated. That immediate, I need a dopamine hit, has gone. And then I don't really want to use it. So and also people send you links in your WhatsApp group and you click on it, it takes you to Instagram. I can't do that anymore. Like I literally have to be careful about choosing when to go on, because it's that link click that takes you to Instagram, and then you end up on there for 20 minutes scrolling through all kinds of crap, right? It's a gateway drug, so they've hooked you in. I can't do that anymore, and it's revolutionized my life. So there we go. Screen Zen. Thank you, Lee. So barriers, whatever barriers exist, and is there any other barriers that anyone would like to share? What else is preventing you from getting out? So we've talked about kind of physical mobility issues. We've talked about time. What else is limiting you? I love the fact Amy's Facebook is limited to cat videos. I can see Ruth smiling there. I'm sure that she spends more than enough time looking at cat videos as well. Hands up, all the crazy cat people in the house. I'm definitely team dog. Labrador, Michelle, I'm with you. Dog videos. Guy and the Golden, for anyone that find that channel on Instagram, when I do go on Instagram, watching dog videos makes me very happy. Cats are better than people. Arguable. Dogs definitely. Cats possibly. Depends which cat. But again, one of the other barriers is the energy. Cats will win all day long. Dogs are too nice. Dogs will never win a fight between a dog and a cat. My dog was huge, and he would get bullied by the cats in the neighborhood. But yeah, as I said, the other barriers are that we're exhausted. that, you know, we're low in energy, and then getting outside and going for a walk, it seems like a harder thing to do. Oh, I love the fact we've totally gone off the rails, and now it's very much a debate about cats, dogs, and now we've got horses thrown in the mix as well. We could literally continue the rest of this discussion talking about what are the best animals for our well-being. For me, all nature, whether it be trees, birds, sky, plants, bushes, animals, dogs, fish, whatever, bring you positive benefit. And you know, the shout out to all the tree huggers in the house. And my partner loves to hug a tree, and there is actually benefit that goes with that, which I didn't actually realize until recently. I read a research report about the fact that being in nature, it's known as forest bathing. I'm actually doing a podcast with the Forest Bathing Institute. It's a real organization. They've done a lot of research on this. There's historical precedents for this going back thousands of years, particularly in indigenous cultures, which has shown actually being in a forest, or forest bathing as it's known, has a significant impact on positive mental health and well-being. So for shout out to all the tree hugging hippies, it's absolutely been now proven unequivocally it brings benefit. So yeah, absolutely. Sandbars in forests is amazing. I didn't know that was a thing. And our resident sound healer in the room, Ruth, that's maybe something for you to take on. Sound baths in the forest sounds like the way forward. But just coming back to these barriers, so we're talking about time, because I know we're going to get derailed here with the conversations going on. It's fantastic. But the barriers are things like time, energy, mobility. If we know what those barriers are up front, we can have a plan for it. We can ensure that when those barriers present themselves, when those obstacles or excuses come up, you have a ready, prepared response. So let's just talk about this. If the barriers are, for example, time, energy, or mobility, those are the most common ones, how can we overcome them? What action could you take? Let's start with time, for example. I don't have enough time. How do we address that?
Start small.
Absolutely.
5 minutes.
Absolutely, Alicia. 5 minutes is better than no minutes. 10 minutes
Plan
is better
your
than 5
day.
minutes. Sorry, Sally, say that again.
Plan your day. Plan ahead.
Plan your day. Absolutely. If you work in a busy environment, your day is being scheduled for you. Many of my colleagues are booking meetings into my diary, are booking sessions into my diary. If I want to make sure there is time for a break, and there's been a couple of days recently where I didn't even get time for lunch, I need to get better at actually putting time into my diary where this is the time I'm going to go for my walk. If it's a very busy day, maybe I can do some calls on my walk and some time unplugged. So I can actually plan and factor for it. On Monday, I was working from home. I had a call scheduled at 4 p.m. And the person asked if we could do the call via phone rather than Microsoft Teams. Great. So I just basically turned it into a phone call, which I did whilst I was walking. So I got the opportunity to be outside whilst I had that call. So plan and schedule for it. Absolutely. Create the time for it and make it kind of an unmovable opportunity. There are some other things that we can do. Set yourself a daily goal. And I know at the moment for us within our team, there are some of us that have private medical care from our company with an organization that rewards you for positive behaviors. So if you get a certain amount of steps in every day, you get points, and points mean prizes, and get like a free coffee and other benefits. So that's kind of encouraged additional activity. So Ruth, I know that that's something that's been both a bane of your existence, but has also forced you to get out, like the other day where you had to get out even though it was late. How has that helped you to overcome the barriers that could come up when you're tired?
Yeah, so I have to get a certain amount of points each day, a week, and I notice sometimes at the beginning of the week I'm like, yeah, it's fine. I'll start off really well, but halfway through the week I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't got my points yet. So have to really push myself to get out and do long walks. And actually, once I do it, I'm so grateful actually for that accountability. And obviously you can do workout apps or whatever it is, but I love being out in nature. That is definitely my preference. So it's just remembering to do the hard thing, and then it's not actually so hard. It's actually really rewarding at the end. So yeah.
Absolutely. And the hardest thing is sometimes getting started. Once you're started, it's like, oh, I'm actually outside, I'm walking, it's nice. Or, getting out for going to the gym, going for the run, getting in the ice bath, standing barefoot. It's like getting yourself to that point can be the most challenging thing. Once you're there, generally we tend to feel the benefit. What if the barrier is energy? What if I'm too tired? I can't be bothered. I'm exhausted. How do you overcome that barrier?
I'm just going to jump in and share this often happens to me. So it's one, either doing the hard thing first in the morning when I know I have more energy, or just remembering that once I get out, the energy comes, especially if I'm doing something in nature. It does naturally revive me. And even a walk before bedtime, I find I sleep much better. So even though it's challenging to get out, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. Something is better than nothing. And when I do then come home, when I'm in bed, I'm like, oh, that was beautiful.
Absolutely. And Michelle, I've just noticed that your comment in there, tell yourself to shut up. That sounds very David Goggins, where you're literally slapping yourself into submission. Now, some people that can work, and definitely there are times where I'm like literally telling myself to man up and just get out there and get it done. But I think actually there is finding the balance between the carrot and the stick. Sometimes definitely you need a bit of stick. You need to kind of like push yourself. But sometimes it's also rewarding yourself. And, it's like, okay, I can get out and do this thing. And I can come back and have a nice cup of tea, or I can come back and chill out in the hammock. So just being able to balance both reward and potential repercussions can be really good. The research suggested all carrot and all stick doesn't work. So if you're constantly self-flagellating and beating yourself up for not doing enough, that can obviously be challenging, and that's not necessarily going to create long-term positive benefit. But also constantly just rewarding yourself when you've done well, but there is no consequence when you don't, can also be challenging. So finding the balance between the two. And obviously with regards to sort of mobility issues, we talked about how we can overcome some of those barriers, asking yourself what you can do. But as Alicia was saying, look at within your community how you can get people together and do this as more as a community type activity. Okay, so the barriers of using your weather to your using the weather to your advantage. So we talked about things like challenges. Ruth was talking about kind of having those daily challenges, overcoming the busy schedules and lack of time by making the time for it. Avoiding the digital distractions and indoor culture by having periods of your time where you're off your technology. There's been a lot of research to suggest that actually having 2 hours at the beginning of your day and 2 hours at the end of your day when you're unplugged from your technology can be tremendously beneficial. There are now resorts and hotels around the world that are classed as digital detox resorts, where they take your phone from you when you check in and they don't give it back to you till you leave. And for many of you, that would be anxiety inducing in and of itself, to be disconnected from the world around you. If you are having anxious thoughts or physical sensations at the thought of your phone being off or not having your phone available, you may have an addiction. And I don't say that lightly. Many of us are addicted to our technology, and I can put my hand up and say I've definitely experienced some of those symptoms, and I'm doing my best to wean myself off my reliance on my technology. So how could you have pockets of your day that are unplugged? If 2 hours at the beginning and the end of the day sounds like a lot, maybe try the first hour of your day. And like Heather, I start my day, and I'm not perfect with this because times I do need to check my phone because I'm working with colleagues internationally. But starting my day with meditation, red light therapy, cold plunge, etc., all of those things, if I could do that without having touched my technology, how would my life be better? If I could have that last hour of my day to read a book, to go for a walk, to spend some time in the garden, rather than within the last hour I'm still looking at a screen. That again could be tremendously beneficial. I'm not sitting here saying I've got it right. I'm on this journey with you, but I've recognized there are things about myself that I could improve on. And ask yourself, how could you create pockets at the beginning and the end of your day to unplug from your technology, to detox from your digital devices? And also, many of us feel guilty about resting, lying in a hammock, reading a book, doing nothing. How many of you feel guilty when you're doing nothing? I got my hand up because I sometimes feel guilty. If I'm sitting around, it's like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm wasting my life. I am learning. I'm very lucky I've got people around me that encourage me to be more present. But there are times where guilt will rise because I feel like I should be doing something. So part of this is allow yourself to be present. That quite literally is the meaning of meaning of mindfulness, being present in the moment with no judgment. This isn't good, this isn't bad, this is just being. It just is. And the barriers have obviously used the weather to your advantage. In many parts of the world, we have unpredictable weather. I think a couple of you from Scotland and Wales earlier talked about the fact that you could have all 4 seasons in an hour. I totally get that. And this is where we're going to encourage you to use what we call the sun model. So this hopefully is something easy for you to remember, to take away, to be able to apply. And the sun model is very, very simple. It is literally start small. What little actions can you take? Overcome the guilt, time pressure, or mental health blocks by reducing the size of the step. The 10-minute walk, the 2 minutes of being mindful, the 20 minutes at the beginning of and end of your day where you can unplug from your technology. You know, looking outside the window for just a few minutes. Have your cup of tea outside on the balcony, in the garden, on the patio, rather than staring at a screen. Don't put yourself under pressure. And I know sometimes you need a little bit of pressure, but if that's derailing and stopping you from taking action, this is really where I'm going to encourage all of you just to think about, well, how can I do this and take the pressure out of it and add the joy in? Small is sustainable, small adds up. Little and often is better than big steps which are never repeated. You cannot go to the gym once and expect to be fit for the rest of your life. And if you're struggling to get to the gym for an hour 4 times a week, start with 10 minutes. Build the habit of, not using the gym as an example because that's indoors, but let's say going outdoors, going for a walk. Start with 10 minutes 4 times a week and then build it to 15 minutes. It's a lot easier to incrementally increase the time because then you don't notice so much as when you try and start big and you fall away very quickly. Use what you have. You don't need to buy special equipment. And, just in the course of today's call, we've mentioned things like red light therapy and gyms and cold plunges and all the rest of it. You don't need any equipment. Nature has already provided us a perfect gym. It's called the outdoors. Go for a run, go for a walk, go for a swim in a lake or a river if you have one near you. As Elise is mentioning, around the UK, there are many parks that have got free to use outdoor gym equipment. But also you can find on YouTube very easy to do bodyweight exercise, which you could do in the garden or in the park. There's a couple of parks near me where I've been out for walks and I've seen people in groups that literally just doing sit-ups and press-ups and shuttle runs in the park. No equipment. There's no cost. It's just friends getting together and doing workout outdoors. Don't wait for the perfect weather. Do it regardless of what's going on. Get into the habit of getting out. Have your rain jacket or your umbrella next to the door just in case. Michelle, absolutely. Gardening is one of the most fantastic forms of exercise. For those of you that have watched the Blue Zones documentary on Netflix, will know one of the things that is resulting in human longevity and quality of life isn't going to the gym, isn't using exercise equipment. It's natural daily movements. It's when they hoover or sweep, they're using a broom. When they are making dough and bread, they're doing it by hand. No food processors in sight. When they're going out for walks, they're actually walking, not getting the tube or riding a bike. And the gardening again, as Michelle's saying, it's basically bending down, lifting weeds, mowing the lawn. That's forms of natural movement that are really good for you. So you don't need the right equipment. You don't need the perfect weather. If it is rainy, enjoy it. There's that smell that goes with the rain, and particularly in the warmer months, there's the sensations that accompany summer showers that can actually be really enjoyable if you allow yourself to be present to that. If it's cloudy, take a small walk, observe your surroundings. For those of you that are looking for ways to reframe the gloomy weather, buy yourself some blue light blocking red glasses. You put them on, and immediately everything seems more bright and more sunny. And that's one thing I found works really well for me. I'll put my yellow glasses on and just go for a walk, even if it's miserable outside. If you've got no green space to access, find a patch of sky or a bit of breeze. If you're indoors, can you have plants or nature that you can bring into your home, which also potentially adds scents and aromas? And the last bit is notice without judgment. For me, time outdoors is an opportunity, an invitation to be mindful and present, not productive. The goal is not to fix anything, to do anything, to achieve anything, but it's just to be present, to connect. And just observe all of the thousands of sensations you're experiencing in any given moment. If I remember correctly, there's more than 1 billion sensations a human being is experiencing in any given moment, but we are aware of less than a handful of them. So there's sensations that are occurring throughout your body, and as we become better at being mindful, if we practice some kind of meditative technique, you can start to become aware of some of those subtle things that are shifting in your body. But start with the simple basic things: how the air feels on your skin, how the sun or the breeze feels on your body. When you take a breath, where do you feel that? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you smell? How are you reacting and responding to lights, colors, temperatures, sounds, sensations? So this is kind of the suggestions that we have for you to be able to start taking simple steps to bring more movement and positive benefit as a result of the summer season, which hopefully you can carry into the winter. So what are you going to do? How are you going to start small in your own way? What can you do that's already available to you? What do you notice without trying to change anything by being more present? So that's kind of where we're going to leave today's session. I'm going to encourage you all, before you finish today's call, make a couple of commitments, no matter how small, even if that's going to go out for a 5-minute walk twice a day. Or I'm going to get an imaginary dog called George and download a picture of it off the internet and put it on my desk and take George for a walk a couple of times a day. It could be I'm just going to stand barefoot in the garden. Whatever it is, please make that commitment now, because you're more likely to follow through with things if you've been able to make that commitment. Go for it, Julie.
I was just going to say, I'm a brownie leader, and I've been for 40 years, and just that, doing that volunteer work, working with, doing stuff with the brownies, it's just enabled me throughout my adult life to do all of those things that a lot of people were talking about when we were kids. We were happy to get out in nature and dig in the mud and all those kind of things. Well, I still do all that because I get away with it because I'm doing it with a group of brownies, and going down slides at 56 years old and going on rides and just all of those kind of stuff that I get to do. So I would just say that if people have got, I'm putting a plug in for the Girl Guide Association and the Scout Association, but if people got things like that in their areas, not just those, but things you could volunteer doing, honestly, it just changes my life. I was at Brownies last night, and before I went, I was exhausted, didn't feel like going, but I have to go because all those children are relying on me to be there. And I get there and it's like just lifts everything, and it's so. Just a plug for people who might fancy volunteering that don't already. It's just the best thing in the world for me. I think I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. You're absolutely right. Some of my fondest childhood memories are from being in the Cubs and then being in the Scouts. I also remember that probably from the age of 2 to the age of about 15, there was not a period where I didn't have scraped knees. I haven't had scraped knees for a while. Maybe it's time for me to get out there and climb a tree or
Yeah.
jump out of a bush and scrape my knees again. I'm not sure they'll recover quite as quickly as they did when I was a kid. But that was an important part of childhood. Is you had scraped knees and you just got on with it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think many children today are having a more sanitized version of childhood where they're not allowed to play freely in the ways that many of us did when we were kids. They're not allowed to scrape their knees and fall out of trees and off bikes because there's a fear about people hurting themselves. And I think the guardrails were off. Even 20 or 30 years ago, and I think this is part of the experience of being able to have adventures and to play and to be outdoors, which I think we need to bring back in, because we are becoming kind of a society. We're spending more time indoors, where kids are more likely to play a PlayStation or whatever devices people play today than they would to be out in a park. And I think also for us as adults as well, we're also becoming accustomed to that. So I think this is definitely something we can do.
Kids love getting outdoors. They love nothing more than putting the wellies on and splashing in puddles and rolling down hills.
Absolutely.
And I join them because I love it as well. But yeah, I'm a bit bonkers, but that's okay. It's okay to be bonkers.
Of course, it is actually good to be a little bit bonkers. Sally, I love the fact that you volunteered yourself to climb a tree. Be careful, be safe, but enjoy yourself. And if you do scrape your knees, then send us a picture. We'll put it in our next newsletter. And there are, as Ruth mentioned, there's lots of community groups. A lot of the parks in our neighborhood have got kind of volunteer groups. And the parks have been in our area have been developed in a way that many of them are very beautiful. And that's armies of volunteers just showing up to make the neighborhood more pleasant for everybody. So decide what actions you're going to take, what commitments you're going to make to yourself, what habits you can start today that will carry you through the winter and beyond. It's a lot easier to start now than when the weather's a little bit more wet and miserable. It's harder to motivate yourself. So there are additional resources on our website. Check it out on stress.org.uk. Lee will drop that link into the chat as well, so you can check in the free resources section. There is something called the 30-day calendar. So Lee, that's the wrong link. That's for the mental health community. So it's just stress.org.uk. And in addition to that, we do have, for those of you who are decision makers around people, culture and well-being within your workplace, we do have our forum. You're welcome to join that. Again, you can find that through our website, our newsletter, and we can also put a link into that in the chat. So there'll be a link for that dropping in very shortly. We have our Stress Buster newsletter. Many of you would have found this session via our newsletter. If you don't get it, you're missing out. I've written tomorrow's campaign personally, so if you haven't already signed up for it, I encourage you to go to our website and sign up for it, because tomorrow's an extra special one. I wrote a poem for that as well, and there is a recording of that, so you need to be on the newsletter to get that. Also, if you're interested in being part of our global movement for positive change, we have a mental health champions program. I can see there are various trained champions in the call and a couple of champions in training on the call as well, like Alicia and a couple of others. So great. Thank you for being here. The June program is already full and has started. We've got our September program that is available. If you're interested in more information about that, if you'd like to book up for that, then please feel free to reach out and we can send you more information. We've got our online training program. There's 50% off that. So again, if you're interested in that, there'll be a link that will come into the chat and in the email that you'll get tomorrow. If you like today's session, we do this because we care and we want to make a difference. Your feedback and your support is crucial, but also leave us a review. That means other people that find us can check that out, and hopefully that will inspire and motivate them to attend as well today. So please, your feedback is very, very important. If you need any support within your organization, or you'd like us to review your employee assistance program or any other resource you have in place, you can reach out and we can also help with that as well. If you're struggling right now, you need immediate help, you can contact the Samaritans. There's a campaign against living miserably. Mind, if you are dialing internationally, you'd like us to point in the direction of resources in your local region, then please feel free to reach out. Next month's webinar is going to be talking about how do we move beyond self-care to a place of hope, particularly when we are in a world that feels like it's filled with death, disease, devastation, and destruction. I'm going to be sharing something of a quite a personal nature. The session is called Broken But Still Leading, and it's my thoughts on where we find ourselves and how we can all be part of the process of change that is so needed in the world today. It's going to be quite a deep and important one. I really hope that you can make it for that session. That's going to be on the 16th of July. Details of that will come out in the newsletter, so you can sign up early to make sure you've got your place reserved. We have overshot by a minute, but I am going to stay on for the next few minutes. If anyone has any questions, comments, feedback, anything you want to discuss or share, happy to continue the conversation for the next 10 minutes or so. If you do need to jump off for your next appointment, then thank you so much for being here. This only works because you're here. We really appreciate you being here. But as I said, I am going to stop sharing the screen, and anyone that's like to stay on, have a chat, ask any questions, share any thoughts, feel free to do so.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to go, but thanks very much. It was a really good session. I will be back.
You're most welcome, Julie. We see you next month.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Anyone else got any questions, comments, feedback, anything you'd like to discuss or share?
Can I speak? Is it okay to speak?
Yeah, go for it.
I was just curious about the mental health champions to find. So is that within workplaces, or is it just?
Yeah, so it's an online virtual session. It's 4 sessions. They're 2.5 hours each, and basically it leads to a recognised qualification as a mental health champion. The session times are 2:30 to 5 o'clock, Tuesday and Thursday, for 2 weeks in a row. So I'm not quite sure what the dates are off the top of my head. I think it's the 17th, 19th of September, and then the following Tuesday and Thursday. But if we can get your email address, Michelle, in fact, what I'll do, if I just drop our email address into the chat, if you drop us an email, we can send you information on that. There is an early bird offer where you can save, I think it's £112. If you book early, it's only £222. I think the normal price is £497. So it's there we go. Ruth put the dates in. One of us will drop you an email with information if you'd like to book on that. We've still got space on it, and we'd love to have you.
Okay, I'll have a look at that. I was going to write the email address that I really enjoyed today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. We cover a range of different subjects. Some are obviously a little bit lighter, like today. Some we will explore more challenging and uncomfortable things. But actually, our whole approach is to be able to have real conversations, not lecture people, not tell them what's right and wrong and what to do, but actually to be able to create spaces where people can open up, explore, be authentic and vulnerable. And if you're interested in the Mental Health Champions program, is to equip you to do the same for other people, if that makes sense. So essentially how we hold our programs is how we're training other people to hold space for others as a mental health champion.
No, it was really good. Definitely will come into more, or make the time to come into more. So I'm going to go out, take my shoes off, walk in the grass, hug a tree, look at the birds, do some cloud gazing. Thank you. I'll nip off now.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. You put a big smile on Ruth's face because that's all of the things that bring her joy. So you made her very happy with your commitments.
I sniff moss and everything. Yeah, but I'm absolutely unapologetic about it.
Fantastic.
Okay, bye.
Amazing. Excellent. Have a lovely afternoon. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.